Hey guys, so today in this lecture we are going to discuss a new topic, an economic analysis, that is clean development mechanism. So what is clean development mechanism and how it was established and what are its functions and roles and why it is important. So we'll see this clean development mechanism. So before understanding what is clean development mechanism, we'll go in history. The United Nations Kyoto Protocol established binding greenhouse gases emissions reduction targets for 37 industrialized countries and European Community. To achieve these targets, the protocol introduced three flexible mechanisms. So, three flexible mechanisms were introduced. They were first, international emissions trading, that is IET, then joint implementation JI, and third, clean development mechanism, which we are going to study, that is CDM. So these three protocols were introduced. So now we have seen the history. So now we'll see what is clean development mechanism and what we have achieved through it. So the clean development mechanism has been most successful of the three flexible mechanism. So this has been more successful than the other two. It has two main goals. One, to assist countries without emission targets, that is in developing countries without giving any targets, in achieving sustainable development. To help those countries with emission reduction targets under Kyoto Protocol, that is developed countries, in achieving compliance by allowing them to purchase offsets created by CDM projects. So this is little introduction of CDM. So now which projects comes under CDM? So a broad range of projects are eligible for CDM accreditation, but with notable exceptions of nuclear power and avoided deforestation projects. So they vary from hydropower and wind energy projects to fuel switching and industrial efficiency improvements. Crucially, to qualify for accreditation, the project developers must prove additionally defined as emission reductions that are additionally to what would they have otherwise occurred. So this is calculated by using approved methodology to subtract the estimated emissions of a given project from a hypothetical business as usual emissions baseline. So this is the methodology. Now once once a CDM project is registered is registered are then issued certified emission reduction. So CDM emission the CDM, this mechanism allows emission reduction projects in developing countries to earn certified emission reduction credits. So when your project is approved, there is issued CER certification, there is certified emission reductions, with each CER unit equal to a reduction of 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. So 1 CER is equivalent to 1 ton of CO2 reduction. So these CERs are offsets can be bought and used by developed countries to meet their Kyoto commitments. So These CERs can be traded and sold and used by under industrial industrialized countries to meet the part of their emission reduction targets under Kyoto Protocol. So now you must have understood that what it is saying that, see, for developing countries there is no source of motivation. So to create the source of motivation, if you reduce 1 ton of CO2, then you are getting 1 CER. Now, what is you earned a 1 CER? What is the value of that CER? So, as developed countries need to meet their Kyoto commitments, and so if they fail to achieve that commitment, so they will just buy one CER. So they will buy the one CER from developing countries. So in that way, the developing countries can reduce the carbon emission. So there are currently over 3,000 registered projects delivering an average of 500 million CERs per year. The overwhelming demand for CERs come from emissions trading schemes, European companies. So that is comes from emission trading schemes. So the mechanism stimulates sustainable development and emission reduction by industrialized countries some flexibility in how they meet their emission reduction limitation target. So the world's largest functioning compliance carbon market, that is emissions trading scheme. Between 2008 and 2010, European companies used 277 million CERs to meet their emission reduction targets. Under this mechanism, carbon has been become a tradable commodity. So consequently, projects undertaken to improve energy efficiency or installation of renewable energy systems qualify for carbon trading. The annual revenue generated would be a part of financial benefits of the system and can be included in the calculation of annual savings. Thus, the equation of annual savings will be savings on fuel or electricity minus repayment on loan taken from the system minus maintenance charges, taxes, etc., plus tax deductions plus savings under CDM. So that is the formula for annual saving. So the CDM is main source of income for UNFCCC Adoption Fund, which was established as finance adoption projects and programs in developing countries parties to the Kyoto Protocol that are particularly vulnerable to adverse effects of climate change. The adoption fund is financed by 2% levy on CR issued by CDM. So this mechanism is seen by many as trailblazer. So it is the first global environmental investment and credit scheme of its kind, providing a standard emissions offset instruments CERs. A CDM project activity might involve, for example, a rural electrification project using solar panels or installation of more energy efficient boilers. So the mechanism stimulates sustainable development and emission reductions while giving industrial countries some flexibilities in how they meet their emission reduction or limitation targets. So CDM projects are not without their controversies, however. So question surrounds the sustainable development credentials of certain projects, particularly in case of industrial gas projects. The HFC 23 projects, for example, seem to create perverse incentives to continue to produce the ozone depleting gas HCFC 22 in order to destroy the waste gas byproduct HFC 23. Indeed, in response to this, starting in May 2013, the US banned companies covered by the EU emission trading schemes for using CERs for HFC 23 and N2O. So this was a problem that occurred that in order to reduce the CO2 emission, if you are generating ozone depleting emissions, that is ODP, then there is no gain, then just lost. So this was just traded off in 2013. So it is cited concerns regarding the environmental merits, cost effectiveness, and competitive distortions of these projects. So counter to the negative impacts, there has been positive achievements of CDM also. So it is expected to generate as much as 1 billion tons of emission reductions up to 2012, with projects in 81 countries driving investments and a market worth $19.8 billion in 2010. The CDM has created a system where emission reduction opportunities are actively sought. So emission reduction opportunities are sought. In addition, an institutional framework that stimulates secure and focused global investment in sustainable development projects. UN estimates that around 44% of all the projects currently in the pipeline involve some form of technology transfer, with a significant proportion of this occurring in biomass energy, wind projects, methane avoidance projects, energy efficiency projects, landfill gas projects. So all these projects, this is this. So these are the fraction of the CDM pipeline project. So as you can see, biomass project, then land landfill projects, landfill gas, then etc. other projects. So this this HFC 23 was banned to reduce the ozone depleting region. So these are the main benefits in the CDM. So CDM has can be therefore be said to have made a considerable contribution to the development and transfer of knowledge and technology in developing countries and positively impacted on local communities the creation of jobs and infrastructure. So India is one of the largest host of such clean development projects. So from 2003 to 2011, a total 2,295 projects, around one quarter of the global total, that is 25%, had been registered with India's designated national authority for clean development mechanism. Only China hosts more such projects than India. India's approach to governing the CDM is best categorized as laissez-faire. So, what is laissez-faire system? Whereby the Indian government neither actively promotes nor discourages CDM projects implementation in different states. So, this stands in stark contrast to China's national policy, which steers CDM investment towards the country's policy priorities such as renewable energy, the economically backward provinces. So, the consequences of India's liberal approach to the CDM for sustainable development remain unclear. So, data analysis reveals that India CDM projects are concentrated in states that are more industrialized, such as Gujarat, Maharashtra, in contrast to poorer and less industrialized states generally implement fewer CDM projects. So, what is innovative about CDM? So, CDM provides market oriented means to promote sustainable development while reducing greenhouse gases emissions below what they would have otherwise been. Promotes private sector investment in sustainable development, involves public scrutiny. Then next, benefits, as we have discussed: greenhouse gas reduction, lesser cost of climate change mitigation, additional benefits through reduction of other pollutants besides greenhouse gases, opening a market for carbon investment, focus on sustainable development, scope for cooperation at various levels: national, regional, and global. Who are the beneficiaries? So, developed countries, countries with economy in transition, developing countries, small island countries, public and private sectors. So, this chart we have seen. So, this is the workflow, how a CDM project will move. So, first is project development phase, the preparation of the project design documents, then obtaining the letter of approval, that is certified emission reduction certificate, then validation, and then registration. CDM executive board, designated national authority, designated operational entity. Then implementation phase, how you will implement this project. So it will come under monitoring, verification, certification, issuance of CERs, there is certified emission reductions, then forwarding. So this is the flow chart, how the project will move. So this is the whole concept of CDM, that is clean development mechanism, and how it works. So I hope you understood all the aspects of CDM, who are the beneficiaries and everything. So I will just once again revise all the things. So CDM, clean development mechanism, was introduced as flexible mechanisms in Kyoto Protocol, in which there were three mechanisms, that is international emission trading, joint implementation, and clean development mechanism. Though the CDM has been more successful than other two mechanisms, so CDM has been very much important. So CDM, how you can register under CDM? So once you register under CDM, you will get a certificate, that is certified emission reductions. So what is the use of that certificate? So with one certificate of CER, that is, companies can also purchase this CER to contribute towards their own emission reduction targets under mandatory emission trading schemes. So around 1 CER is equal to the reduction of 1 ton of carbon dioxide. So 1 ton is 1000 kg of carbon dioxide. So this can be traded. So that is carbon traded economy. So how you can trade the carbon. And then there was one negative impact of this also, that is HCFC, that is hydrochlorofluorocarbon, was produced in order to reduce the C carbon. So that hydrochlorofluorocarbon was an ODP, that is ozone depletion potential, is increased, was getting increased. So then in 2013, so that was also got stayed, that we cannot use HCFC in for future. So it was de-incentivized, or it was just banned. So this was the whole story of CDM, that is Clean Development Mechanism. I hope you understood, and thank you very much. So hope to see you in the next lecture.